Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's Rajon Lewis, aka Real Talker Rajon, and we are 2 minutes past time because of my fault, not hers. So we're gonna get right into it. Let me get to my countdown. Let's do it.
I have four great adult children.
Awesome.
He's definitely in the community. And he did run for Senate 2 years ago, what?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So
Let's talk about the founding of the Distinguished Gentleman's Club.
Absolutely. So about 8 years ago.
You said you're a mother. So how many children?
I have 5 kids.
Okay.
They started saying that I was their African American, and they got this from our president. They were voting.
So what were you doing when you were young? The first or the second time? Before the first time.
So I was in and out.
good. Awesome. So that really is a great place to transition.
And who is sitting across from me or beside me is never going to sway that.
Listen, man. One, I'm not gonna cry on this episode.
Yeah.
I made it through all of these episodes. I think I've cried once in Congress. What are the things that you're most proud of accomplishing? As a congressman and as whip.
Real Talk with Rajon.
Yo, what's going on? We are back. It is Real Talk with Rajon. Thank you all for tuning in to Real Talk with Rajon, where anything. Hello, world, and welcome back to Real Talk with Rajon, where nothing's off limits. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you are here with me, and I appreciate that. I am your host, Rajon Lewis. Now, here on Real Talk with Rajon, everything's debatable, so on any given week, we could be discussing anything from sports to music to politics. You name it, we'll discuss it. For those who are new to the show, Real Talk with Rajon has a goal of shining a light on the great people and the great things that are right here in the Low Country and beyond. And today, we're taking our chugga choo-choo train all the way to Florence, South Carolina, to meet with my homegirl, aka the program director of She Is Me mentoring program, Miss Tabitha D. James. What's going on?
What's up? Hello, everybody. I'm super excited to be here. Let's get into it.
Thank you so much for joining me. Please introduce yourself to the audience for those who do not know you.
Yes, well, I will start off, I'm Tabitha D. James, as you can see there, but I'll just say it again. And it's funny because I'm even deeper into the woods than Florence. I am in Lakeview, South Carolina. It's a teeny tiny piece of the PD area. Love it here. Trees, cows, open fields. Gotta love it. I serve as the program director for She Is Me mentoring program on the philanthropic side. On the business side, I serve as a strategist for small brands and startup nonprofits. I love people, love giving, love marketing, love traveling and dining. So as you can imagine, these days in the pandemic have been quite rough, but I'm making it. I've learned to cook a little bit.
All right. So here at Real Talk with Rajon, I'd like to take it back a little bit, back in the time, as they say. Just to let people know, give some background information on, what got, your journey to get to where you are. So let's talk about little Tabitha, when she was a tadpole, if you will. See what I did there? Tadpole. You didn't know that was coming. So tell us about little Tabitha. What was she like?
Sure. Little Tabitha was a firecracker. So for context, if you all ever meet me in person, I'm literally 4'11" on a good day, right? So you can imagine that little Tab was even smaller than that. And so with that small package came a big bite, right? So I have always had a loud, extra personality to take up space in rooms. And there was a time in little Tab's life that I may have not known how to handle that that dynamite. So I had a little bit of a spicy attitude as a teenager. I'll admit that. But aside from that spicy attitude, I had a go-getter mentality. I was very involved. I already mentioned I'm from a small town, so I went to a small school, as you can imagine, and I was involved in several activities. I thank God for the teachers and community leaders that saw something in me that I may have not seen in myself, and pulled me to the side a few times, like, girl, calm that attitude down and do something good with it. And so I realized the influence that my personality, not just my attitude, could have on others, my peers, my teammates, my friends. And so I decided to start just talking more about like life after college, right? What does that look like? And what we gonna do after these Friday night lights is what I like to call it. I cheered and played ball all through school. And so it was like, what we going to do next? And so just encouraging the people around me to think about that, and very excited to see that some of those people, even now, 10, 11 years later, like, if you would have never asked me that, I wouldn't have, even thought about school. So wow. I'm super excited to have planted a few seeds even way back then. So that's little Tab, and then she went off to Coastal for undergrad, and then she moved to South Florida for graduate school. Did some traveling all across the country, and found her roots back in South Carolina to reside for this portion of her life.
Okay, so you said you got what's your undergrad in?
My undergrad is in business from Coastal Carolina University, and my master's is in educational leadership from Florida Atlantic. And then when I came back to South Carolina, y'all gonna think I like school a little bit. I did the MBA program.
Wow.
At Coastal, I was in preparatory routes to PhD by 30, but I put a little halt on it because I realized there was so much value in the experience I was getting working with businesses, nonprofits, and individuals that I can later use if I so choose to go and get that advanced level degree.
So you're educated. You brought all the education back to Lakeview. Come on now. So let me ask you that. So when you're young, and you're like, yo, let's talk about your goals. What was that like? Like saying, hey, young person, I'm also young. Tell me about your goals. What was that like?
It was super weird, I must say. I was just sharing with someone yesterday how I didn't always have this confidence about my futuristic mind. And so to ease the pressure off of it, I tried to just like talk to other people, right? And I would, just kind of ask to get a feel for if I was in the presence of people who were also future minded and were also thinking about what life could look like as an adult. And I'd be like, y'all, like, I'm not trying to be a shoulda, woulda, coulda adult. I'm not trying to be a complaining adult. I'm not trying to be someone who's just working for livelihood. Like, I really feel like there's a way to truly enjoy life, especially these younger parts of the adulthood. Like, there's got to be some magic sauce to it. Right. And of course, I had people who was like, this girl's crazy. Okay. And then there were people who was like, all right, cool. Let's chop it up and talk about it. And I think this may be something that we'll talk about, down the line, but I think it inspired even then the knowing of like, oh, there needs to be somebody that's like not my mama age, but like not my age, just like somewhere in between that can bridge that gap. Because what I realized were for a lot of my peers, if they did decide to go to higher ed, they'd be first generation, or there was not someone in the home talking about education. And though that was not my narrative, and I did not realize that was some of theirs until we were adults. When I got to college and started learning some of that language around first generation students, I was like, oh, several of my friends fit that category. So that may be why they didn't have such an interest in the future, or just did not understand the systematic ways that you work the system. Because I think that that's a thing, right? Like, if you know the sauce, you can work it. But if you don't know the sauce, you can't really work it. And so it was awkward sometimes talking about it. And I was queen cut you off from about 18 to 24-ish. Like, I had a good time, right? I had a great time. I'd party with you if you had goals. But if you ain't have goals, like, I really ain't got time to play.
Word.
Like that. Tunnel vision.
So you seem to be very education minded, from the get-go. Were your parents also college graduates?
Yes, but my mother and father both attended South Carolina State.
Oh, okay. So were they in the Marching 101?
They were not. Neither one of them at that. Neither one of them were in the marching 101, but they both went to South Carolina State. They are diehard Bulldogs, and of course, growing up, I probably thought that was going to be my trajectory also. But when I got to around 11th, 12th grade, I started doing college tours to see what institution would fit me. Just so happened our cheer camp in 2007, 2008 was at Coastal Carolina University. So I was like, okay, it's kind of cool here. The food is good. That was important. They had single occupancy rooms. That was important because I'm an only child. So I was not trying to stay with somebody. However, I did end up getting in a double and having a roommate, and I ended up loving it, right? Okay. I got there and I was like, ew, I'm submitting to be moved. And I didn't get like my request approved until like November. And I loved her by then. So it was like, never mind, I'll stay. And it was amazing. I was like apprehensive about it because I didn't do people like that.
Yeah. So what was college like for you in that standpoint? Because you're from a small city. You go to a place like Conway, where, for those who don't know, Conway is the city that Coastal Carolina is in, which is right outside of Myrtle Beach. What was that like for you? Because a lot of people consider Coastal to be like a party school.
Woohoo! I like to say that any school you go to, you can make a party school. It's the person, not the school, right? Right. It's the person, it's not the school. But it was a transition, right? Because at the time, Coastal was considered small, right? About 10,000 students or so. So that's considered small. However, when you come from a school where there's 300 students in 8 through 12, that's 10,000 is huge. Yeah. And so what I did was find my folks and not get, when I realized that people wasn't my folks, I would detach. But I found my circle of people, and I found my resources that I could, tap into when I went to, I think it was like freshman orientation. Me and my mom were like walking around to the tables, and there was a woman who was over multicultural student services at the time. Her name was Patricia Singleton Young, and she's my mom's sorority sister. And so, my mom was basically like, whatever's going on in that office, you need to do it. So I'm like, okay, then. And so that she, took me under her wing, and I still had that little attitude, little bite at the time. But she made sure she got that up out of me while I was at Coastal Carolina. But I think that finding my pockets of space was very important, because as a business student, of course, there was not a lot of people who looked like me. Right. So finding the communities of people who did look like me and were willing to help and support was very, very important. And so I tapped into resources. I got very involved. I had a mentor that was like a sophomore or junior. She was very, she was from the Low Country, actually. She was very, very intentional about reaching out, making sure that me and her other mentees knew about resources, knew about things that were going on campus, knew that like, even if we were in a sticky situation, right, sticky little situation, that we could call her. So having those circles of support was very important to me, and taking something with me that I tried to start kind of in high school, but it was harder to disengage from people who didn't mean me well here, because it's so small. So you really have no choice. Like, you got these 5 people to talk to. Right. But, taking with me like, hey, if you're not really about your goals yourself, how can you be about mine? And so making sure that I was surrounding myself with other students who were there to get a degree, right? Like, they're going to have a good time. They're going to do other things. But at the root of it, they're there to get a degree. So that's kind of like my college journey.
No, I love that. I love that mindset. My daughter is actually a freshman at Clemson University now.
Sweet, go Tigers.
She's very, she's not outgoing at all. I don't know if she's watching. She's probably not. But if you are, I love you, Ari. But she's not outgoing at all. But she is all about her business. She's like, yo, I am not here for, especially with COVID. Like, she don't even like people get on the elevator with her. Dead serious. I've seen her do it. They be like, can we get on? She's like, no. So I could just like imagine like somebody with a go-getter mindset like that. I was just thinking like just juxtapositioning, what college was probably like for you and what it's like for her. It's completely different. But I can see that working for you. I wanted to ask you this. So you matriculated, through your undergrad, you went straight into grad school. How did you end up in the mentoring space?
I took a 6-month break, but I ended up in the mentoring space because Um, Oddly enough, when I was in high school, me and one of my friends, we really were dreaming up this idea of being able to support students. Like we're what 15 and 16 or 16 and 17, and we're dreaming up these ideas. And then both of us went on to, go matriculate through higher education and got involved in, structured mentoring programs. Growing up, I had people that took me under their wings. I had great teachers, coaches, people from church, different things like that. But once I got to college and being in a structured mentoring program, and the school official who was over that program, that was especially for minority students, he took me under his wing as a mentee from a professional standpoint. So just learning the logistics of how a program works and how like the data around that. I'm a geek at heart. I have a good time, but I'm really a nerd. And so learning the data behind how mentoring and getting in programs such as that one strategically developed for minority students, how that helps to propel their success, how that helped with graduation rates, how that helped with students, even if they were not able to stay in school the consecutive 4 years, but if they fell off, how students that may have been involved in a program such as that recovered. So learning all of that, I was like, ooh, this is interesting. So when I went to graduate school, a lot of my research was based on support services for Black identifying females that originated from rural areas, matriculated in higher education. And so anytime I could choose my topics, it was something in that realm. And I had an advisor in graduate school she was a white lady, but she was very adamant about the understanding of people of color, because she had been in education for, 50, 60 years. And so she's seen so many transitions that she wasn't the type of person to be like, no, things don't need to be exclusively for a certain demographic of people. She understood exactly where I was coming from the space of how people identify. And so I was just blown away as I researched, as I continued to be in structured as well as other non-formal programs and just doing different things. I was like, whoa, this mentoring space, like this is lit, right? And so along the way, people who I mentor and them the ones that, really bought into what mentoring was and utilizing as a resource, learning how to network and seeing how that blossomed, I was like, oh, this is something not to play with. And so I'll stop there to see what the next question.
That's really good, because I mean, like I just love getting into the mindset, because a lot of people don't understand the breadth of work that goes into running a mentoring program, like the amount of data that's collected, the amount of time. Like people just think, oh, we're just gonna grab a kid and we're gonna encourage them, and that's all you do. And anybody can take a kid and encourage them. So then everybody's mentoring. Can you talk to the misunderstanding that people may have about, even like how your level of education has informed your work in the mentorship space?
Certainly. And I mean, this is no disclaimer, no shade or foul to anyone, right? But I do think that sometimes people, they develop programs or they use the word mentoring really loosely, but they really are meeting and greeting with kids. And there's no like end goal, there's no outcomes, there's no measures, there's no data, there's no, I need to be working with this specific subset of children. It's going on. And not to say that that is not good work, because sometimes it's for show, but then sometimes it started from the heart, but there's not anyone brought in with the technicalities of it.
Yeah.
So it gets a little interesting. And so I just say to people that when you feel like you want to do something like that from the heart, then go Google some research, right? And find some people, have a strong understanding of what resources are available around you before starting something. Also, because colleagues that hit me up from larger metropolitan areas that I may have met through along the way at conferences or through school, I'm always like, find out what's already out there. Find out what's already out there, and you can probably be an amazing volunteer, director, coordinator, whatever, for something that is already developed. And then if you see a need inside
I'm gonna throw something at you.
If you see a need inside of that, maybe you can create a subset for individuals that meet that need that you see. But until you dive into it, you have no clue what there may not even be a need for the program that you're developing, or there may already be something that's like that, and you could take whatever your skill set is or your passion, and you can complement that already developed organization, and it's going to be so much easier on you and your longevity, like your longevity, because you're going to have resources. And I think that slight tangent, but definitely related. A lot of programs, they go extinct because of the lack of resources, whether there's people, whether there's capital, whether there's understanding, right? And so that lack of complete understanding of what the outcome is supposed to be, right, is it's a critical piece. And so I challenge people to, before they dive into, program development, research, right? Research.
Yeah. Dude, I'm so glad you said that just now. Like, on so many levels, I'm so glad you said that just now. And full disclosure, you and I have had some discussions on Clubhouse, about mentoring in the mentor sector, and the need for a more substantive effort by people. I would say especially people of color. When we talk about getting into this work, it's so important. When I say this work now, I'm taking off my host hat and putting on my executive director hat. But I need to go there really quickly. It's so important because even as I'm currently pursuing my MPA. I got into the work as somebody who wanted to work with kids, but I didn't start my own program out the gate. I was taken in as a part of a program, and I learned that way.
Same.
But can you see me? We good?
Oh, we good? Froze? Am I froze?
I'm good.
Okay, we're good.
I froze for a second. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, so I had people guiding me and supporting me and teaching me the things that I needed to know about how to be, effective in the work. We haven't even talked about She Is Me yet, so I want to make sure I get there. But
we're good.
how is that, just with you not having to establish your own organization, even with your level of understanding, how has that helped you?
Well, I did, but I think I did, but not having to start from ground zero is what helped. Like, having that understanding of what the need was, who we were serving, how I think I did not necessarily know the power of crowdfunding when I got in, but I knew that was going to be a resource, because I knew that the years of work prior could not have gone in vain, right? I knew that, but having structured experience just out the gate, templates, right? We talked about this in a group, I think it was yesterday, right? Having templates, having format, having, thought processes, having people you could call on. So having all of that to get started was like, yes, please, right? That's important, because this was started in a rural area. And so it was just like, the more resources that I could, think about off the top of my head to be able to lean on, the better the quality of the program, despite where it is located, because we're not going to shortchange the children, the parents, the families, the community, simply because of the locale, right? So
in terms of, so let's talk about She Is Me. So give us a rundown. What is She Is Me? How did it get started? What's the vision, Cook?
Certainly. So I spoke earlier a little bit about just having a vision with a friend some years back. And so she and I started an organization back in 2015, 16 together. We ran that organization for 1 year. And at that time, we both had some various things going on in our personal lives. So we decided to go our separate ways. And I didn't want to technically continue with a program, just knowing how much work goes into it. But the parents that we had at the time were not leaving. So She Is Me was formed that summer, and I leaned on the support of people that I knew to be donors, to be guest speakers to help do some leg work if needed, but really honed in on my personal network and personal and professional network to get that started. We service rural teenage girls ages 13 to 17. We started working here in Dillon County. Our work expanded to Marion County, Florence County, and then came the coronavirus and we went virtual, and that has allowed us to have young ladies tap in from all across South Carolina, parts of North Carolina and Georgia. So it's been amazing to kind of see some of the perks maybe that have come from this virtual space. There have been some technical issues, if you will, because we serve rural areas, and so the broadband capacity is not as wide, and so there have been times where there's not enough connectivity for a young lady to get the full breadth and depth of what we do on Zoom. Because we have a pretty good time with our guests and, different surveys, and we're using Kahoot. We're doing a lot. And so if your connection isn't strong, it does present some challenges, but our core focuses are exposure, experience through experiential learning and community service. And so, yes, we talk about higher education. Yes, we talk about careers and self-esteem and relationships and all that jazz. But the breadth of what we do is rooted in exposure and experience, because we truly believe that if a young lady has that confidence and self-esteem and resilience, whatever path she takes post high school, so whether that's military, school, job training, whatever, that the intrinsic things will carry you further. So having some of those technical skills and life skills and just thought processes that can help you as you transition from your shell, right? That your home area is basically your shell. And so once you transition out of that, no matter your socioeconomic background, there's still going to be some uncomfortable situations, right? So that's the meat and potatoes what we do.
So in terms of the service delivery, what do y'all do in terms of service delivery?
In service delivery, so we meet virtually bi-weekly. In between meetings, we communicate via a group app. So we are talking with young ladies daily. And then inside of our organization, we have small groups. And so you can be assigned to a different small group leader, so that then you're planning other things. Y'all might do studying, different things like that. And we try to at least have a quarterly opportunity for parents to engage, to tell us things. We checked in with them a lot more during this time, just asking questions about how is your student adjusting to virtual learning, or how are you adjusting if you may have decided, hey, my kid has to go in person, how are you doing, mentally as it relates to that? Because I can only imagine, I'm not a parent, but I can only imagine how hard of a decision it has been in these times on, can they play sports? Can they not? Am I going to send them to school? Am I not? What am I going to do? Or seeing your student potentially struggle because of the changes in the way the material is delivered. So that's a little bit of how we do program delivery. We ensure that we have guests from a plethora of backgrounds. Our top priority most time is that the guests came from a rural space or some sort of under 60,000 people county or area, to give some of that tie back. If people are open to sharing some of their maybe struggle stories, we've had women come on and talk about some different challenges that they may have had growing up, and then where they are now. And so that's our program delivery. That's how we mix and mingle.
So for you, what's the most rewarding part of doing this work?
Wow, that's hard. That's a good one. See, he didn't send these questions. He didn't send these questions ahead of time. For me, the most rewarding part, I will say, is when you kind of see the young ladies get excited about something or some sort of minute transformation. Because one thing about this work is if you're looking for instant gratification, this isn't the work for you, because they're young people. So nothing excites them, nothing like takes them over the Richters, and you may not see change instantly, and you may not ever see change, right? Because you have people come into the program and then they leave, or you have people come into the program, maybe they do stay through high school, but then you don't hear from them. So it's long term, right? It's over time, right? And so for me, I think in creeping up on year 5, it's having those young ladies who maybe started in 7th or 8th grade that are now applying for jobs and colleges, and they're like, oh, I knew how to do this, or can you be a reference for this, or I'm debating about, you know, this school or that school, how do I make a decision? So they're asking questions based on things they learned. And so it's like, okay, let's look at these, you know, the perks, the pros, the cons, let's talk through it. So having them actually reach back for that support, I think that's one of the most right. But I think the biggest aha moments will come, you know, 5-10 years down the line when they're like in their 20s, early or later 20s, and they're able to tie back the learnings of the program to their success stories. And so once again, reiterating to anyone who may be listening now or on the replay, this is not an instant gratification type of world. So some days it's just like, I'm over it. You know what? I'm over it. They don't care. They don't care. But you just have to re-up and realize they're young people. And there was a point in time where someone was trying to pour into you and you didn't care. So
Absolutely. Especially in this generation. Like, everything is so tangible to kids nowadays that, like, it takes a lot to impress kids these days. I remember we took a group of kids, like we took our boys to the Charlotte Hornets game. We're like, oh, yo, these kids are gonna have the greatest time of all time, right? So we pay for the bus, we don't pay for the tickets, we get to the day of the game, we get to Charlotte, we're like, oh, these kids about to turn up. We get inside. I swear, half the kids were on their phone, like playing NBA 2K on his phone during the game.
Whoa.
And we were just like, are you serious? Now, mind you, we've never gone back to another game after that.
Right.
It's just like, you know.
Right. It's assessment, right? Because you could just be like, oh, we're going to keep going. It's like, nah,
we good. No, because what's going to have to happen for me to go back, and if any of the boys watching, y'all were there, y'all know what time it is. They would have to come to me and say, hey, Mr. Lewis, we remember that time we went to the game? That was really dope. If we went back and we did this, that would be a whole lot more fun, or we get more out of it or something. But like, I saw, just to say, like, I love that. But I also wanted to talk to the fact that you said when they start to ask you questions, when it's like, I'm calling, hey, Mr. Rajan, what are you doing? Can I call you and ask you for advice for a second? Or I have a job applying for a job. Can I use you as a job reference? I'm applying for colleges. Can I use it as a college reference? Can you speak to like a few of those times and how that's worked out for you?
Yes. So those are the times that warm my heart. Those are also the times where there's a lot of lesson learning too. Because I'll be transparent. I am a tough cookie, even with teenagers. And so it'll be times where like, oh, I need a reference letter. And I'm like, well, when do you need it? In the morning, not today, sis. And so there are some learning opportunities that come along with it. But I think those situations and scenarios when they're like, hey, I have a question about applying for this scholar program. Do you think I'm a good fit? And going back and forth with that young lady, like, well, do you feel like you're a good fit? And making her pull out her attributes and the way that dialogue went, that was the type of data that, we may not be able to be like, oh, this is a concrete finding, but intrinsically, that's the stuff that keeps you going. That's the stuff that like, oh, snap. She wouldn't even know to ask this question. Or what if she didn't have me as a resource, right? Because even when I'm being really stern about like, you need to give me some time for these reference letters, especially because they take time and I don't want to shortchange you, right? I don't want to shortchange you or your excellence. So I want to develop a great document for you. But then at the end of the day, knowing that you may not know anyone else to do it. So I'm going to give you a hard time. If I have capacity, I'm going to do it. But you're also going to learn that next time, this is how this works.
Yeah.
Right. This is how this works. So I take it all as a learning opportunity for them and me. But those situations where they're asking questions, whether it's for a program, a school, a job, or just life, right? I don't want to be the type of adult that you can't come and talk to. So I've even had some of the young ladies come and it's a relationship situation. And instead of being like, girl, he is not your forever, it doesn't matter. Just listening, right? Being a listening ear to like all of these 16-year-old shenanigans and just being, maybe not providing much expertise because they don't want to hear it, but being someone that can listen. I'm not your friend, so I'm not going to judge, right? And I'm not your mom, so I'm not going to be like, go sit down. I'm just going to listen. if I can. And so those are the moments where I'm like, okay, I might keep going for a little while longer.
I found in those situations not to say anything. Unless they say, what do you think? Or something like that. I'd be like, all right, cool. So and I'll be like, so what do you think about that? Like, how do you feel? Or because if you like you just said, when you're in a mentorship position, it's not, and I'm sorry that we nerding out on mentor talk right now, y'all. This is my wheelhouse. So I can't do my normal, let's just talk about stuff interview. But when you're in that position, like you said, I'm not mom, I'm not your friend. I'm a trusted adult, and you're trusting me enough to bring me that information. So the best thing that I can do is be trustworthy and to let you think this thing through. And then if you ask for my input, then I give it. But so many kids don't talk to adults because they feel like when I talk to an adult, they're gonna judge me. They're gonna want to preach to me. They're gonna want to talk at me, and they're not gonna actually hear what I have to say and what I bring to the table. I just love that you said that. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
So I don't want to stay here the whole time because you.
Oh no, you're fine. And if we need to go to a different topic, just let me know.
I get my mentor bag. You've seen me my mentor bag. Like I sort of dig there. That's what I love. So but let's talk about your brand. Like your brands. Like how did you get into brand like ambassadorship and brand strategery? Like tell me about that.
That's very interesting. I feel like I got here from people asking me. I have apparently been building a personal brand for a very long time, and I didn't even know it, right? Didn't even know it. But around that, just using my expertise and experiences from so many various industries to help others position themselves the way that they need to be positioned, or the way that makes most sense for them to be positioned. A lot of times people will throw out, oh, you got a business, you got an organization, like social media is the way to go. So it's like, okay, but what social media? Like, okay, but what do I need to do when I get there, right? How do I get people to convert to whatever it is you're trying to get them to convert to, whether that's followers, donors, purchasers, listeners, like what is it that you want a person to do as a result of your content? And so all of that jazz, I learned a lot of that technically along the way. And then I have just invested in myself to become better at it, right? And so it is passion work of being able to mix education, experience, and just technical learning. And so that all in all makes it my jam, my jazz. I enjoy it, especially when I'm able to work with people who may not have that understanding of how digital marketing and media work and how they can work for you. Because just because it's been around a long time, or if someone's been on it a long time, if you haven't been on it from a business lens or from a creator's lens, it looks a lot different than when you're just using it for keeping in touch with your homies and such. And so that's really that. And so I had someone ask me back in like 2014 or 15. 15. I just got out of grad school, helping them with like building their business and their brand and all that. And I'm like, I have no clue what I'm doing, but sure, I can help you. I feel like I may have charged you like $100 or something for just like time, but I was just like, I have no clue. And so I actually started with the strategy stuff and building out websites and building out like funnels for people on a very minute scale from what it is today. And I was just like, oh snap, this works.
Do it.
Oh snap, organizations also need things like this. And so when I transitioned back to South Carolina, and I was thinking about what unique skills I wanted to utilize to build my business upon, business strategy and organizational structure and helping people with positioning was at the forefront, and I've been rocking and rolling with that ever since.
Wow, I love that. So let's talk about Dear Black Girl.
Dear Black Girl.
I'm here. I do this, man. Come on now.
You do this. You pulled out all the brands.
I'm just saying. I look out for my people now. Come on now. Yes. So tell us about it. Tell me all about it.
This is funny. So Dear Black Girl is this is a funny way that I put this recently. This is my homegirl research project. So follow me. The reason I say homegirl research project is because I used very plain language in this read. I used very conversational, homegirl-ish language to relay a message that is very critical to Black women and girls, and the people who work with us, the people who lead us, the people who are helping us navigate life and understand us in this time. And so working with thousands of, Black women and girls over the years through mentorship, through speaking, through training, through facilitating, through classes, seeing some common themes and things that create barriers for us in spaces, and saying, how can I be a resource? How can I take some of these things that I've witnessed and that I've learned from and share them with other people? So I started working on this project. It's funny, a friend whispered in my ear that I needed to write this a while back, and I was not personally okay with having something that said, "Dear Black Girl." I wasn't there yet. Wow. But then I got there. And so I got there. And once I got there, I figured out how I was going to navigate that space. Started working on the project a little bit before COVID-19 hit. And I sat on it for a bit. Like, am I going to release a book during a pandemic? Because I was going to use a strategy. Here we go again with the business strategy that I had utilized before on, doing book tours, visiting various organizations and universities to get the word out, push the book, do bulk orders and things like that. Well, everything was shut down. So that was not an option. But I did not sleep on it. I was like, oh, well, more people are inside, so this might be a perfect time. So I dropped it on September 1st. It was my mother's birthday. She was not doing well, and I was not doing well because she was not doing well. And I just needed something to pick me up. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to drop the book today. I'm going to just drop the pre-orders today. And I kid you not, in 24 hours, we sold more books than I have sold in 5 years of being an author.
Wow. Wow.
And the momentum has continued and carried on ever since then. It had done more than I probably could have ever imagined, and continuing to thrive and build out into its own, standalone kind of brand. And so blew my mind.
Yeah, so let me bring the site back up because I want people to see this site. And can you talk about the different things that's on the site as I go through it, if you don't mind? Just I want people to have an understanding, of the work, because it's so important. A lot of times, we shade, black organizations because they be slacking, but you on top of your game. So I want them to see what time it is with you. So I'm on your shopping page right now.
Sure.
Right? You said the Dear Black Girl has become its own brand in itself. Can you talk about the different aspects of it?
Certainly. And so I'm gonna call myself out on the live so I can call other people out because the link needs to be updated to go directly to the Dear Black Girl shop. But I'll talk about how it's come into its own brand, because things started, I was just going to have, this book, maybe a few apparel items that could be up under me, Tabitha D. James, whatever, cool. But there was such an influx, right? There was such a wave. I was like, oh, maybe this can hold its own weight. And so the holidays were coming. So we did a seasonal push with ornaments and stockings and the pins and the shirts, and the journal accompanies the book. Shortly after the book came out, because of the title, there were some discrepancies around, okay, is this girls, women, who this for? So we had a lot of requests for things for smaller girls. So I called my illustrator, which is my sorority sister. We're line sisters. And I was like, sis, we need a coloring book. How fast can you get me some sample items to look at, and let's talk through this process? And so then came a coloring book and affirmation cards and mugs, and it went quickly. And the items, they just became a hot topic for folks that, maybe I bought the book, so now I'm going to go buy this whole bundle of items for people who I want to have this, right? Or maybe I want to reach out to you to see how I can get a bulk order for young women that I work with, or for colleagues. And so it has been a whole thing. And so as all of that went really fast, as you all probably can tell, I have a lot of things going on. And so I had to personally being the CEO over here and say, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Things are going really fast. So after the holidays, we did not do like another set of seasonal items. and took some time to scale back and really think of how can we be very intentional with the next steps of where this Dear Black Girl brand, movement, initiative, action plan, where do we see this going, and who do we see being partners in this work? Because I am a big on partnerships and propelling through partnerships, utilizing those to be a resource for the brand. So since the new year, partnerships with mentoring organizations, community-based organizations, and sororities has been a big for us. So I've done bulk orders with those type of organizations. And then they bring me in to do some facilitation around the book for their peeps.
That's fire. Like I just love it. Like I'm just like skimming. I'm just like looking through the site now, and it's a really great site. Like I'm just really not that I like didn't expect this from you, but it's just that I love seeing people who are out here putting themselves out there doing the work. You're in the mentor space, you're in the brand strategy space, but you're also putting those things into practice. And that's the piece that always is missing. Often, especially when we talk about our dreamers, right? Either we'll down talk our dreamers and tell our dreamers, like don't dream so big. Why are you dreaming so big? Tone down some. Can you talk to like how you've been able to keep pushing in that is more and more likely to want to pull at that?
Wow. So, great question. You coming with them. So I'm the pillar that I talked about of intrinsic motivation. The reason I think I'm so big on it is because it's what's worked for me. Not too many people shoot me down directly because I think they already know, like, don't come for me. I didn't send for you. If you got negative energy or you're trying to say it's not going to work, don't talk to me. But I do know that along this journey, there have been times people like, ooh, that's a big risk. Like, are you sure you're willing to take that? Or you want to do that? And I'm just like, yeah, right. So what if it doesn't work? So be it. Kind of tying this into the mentoring space. When I was getting ready to move to South Florida, I had someone that I would consider one of my just natural mentors say, you sure about that? Like, what if things don't work out? What if that's too far out of your comfort zone? I was like, I will pack my bags and come back.
Right.
I can come back, degree or not, experience or not. I could just come back because I knew when I went, it wasn't long term. It was to get, secure the degree and get on back because the cost of living there is a little different. I knew I wasn't necessarily ready for that. I think if I never say that I regret anything, but I do think I wish I would have stayed at least one more year because the learning opportunities that I had there were just immeasurable. But nonetheless, everything happens for a reason. I have stayed true to my course because I don't take constructive criticism from people who have not done anything.
Okay.
And that's no shade on saying, I don't respect people's struggle or their grind or whatever. Right. But if you have not charted your own path, you probably can't pour into me because that's what I'm doing. So the people that I listen to the most are people that have charted their own path. Even if it doesn't look like what I'm doing, I am more privy to their wisdom and expertise because that's what they've done. So for people, especially coming out of a very educational space, I had to really choose who I was listening to because the training there is for you to be, educationally trained to then go into said position or said role or said department and settle for said thing for however long and then work through all of this red tape. That is what you are trained to do. Oftentimes, even when you meet people who look like you, they are teaching you how to play the game. Right. And ain't nothing wrong with that for people who are willing to play that game. So there have been people along my path that I had to disconnect from because it didn't serve me. They know how to play that game. And I checked into another game. So I had to find people who knew how to play this one. And I take what I need and leave the rest. So if you're giving me really good advice that I can apply, I'm going to take that, and whatever else, I don't necessarily need that. I'll tie that into when we were doing the clubhouse rooms. Several people were talking about, great intervention that you can utilize in schools. I don't work in schools. We do partner with schools to get information and referrals sometimes, but the breadth of my work isn't there. Right. Did I leave the room? No, I'm still here to learn. There's stuff I can get from these people, but I don't necessarily need that information, right? So just being able to pick and choose what I needed, and I'm just gonna keep doing, because you learn by doing. So I've had several projects over this span of time since 18 that did not work, right? I've had businesses that did not work. I'm not afraid to say that. I learned so much in the process. I'm pretty sure there's things that I'll throw out now or within this journey of living life, they ain't gonna work. It's all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
okay. And so that keeps me going. The opportunity to keep learning and to keep reinventing myself in the way that I do things, and putting my pride to the side. Like, I don't know how to do that. How can I help? I'm in a coaching program, and I'm always my most vulnerable self when I'm there, because I want to learn, not only from the leaders, but also some of the women that are in the program. We're all on different levels of business. So there's some of them that are, doing things I probably couldn't have imagined, but because I'm in that space, it's opened my mind to so many other things.
I love that. That's such a great mindset to have. It's such a great mindset to have. And there's some people who struggle with that because, the pride piece. It's like, okay, I've done this and I've done that, so nobody can tell me anything. But when you walk in, you're malleable, and you're willing to listen and willing to learn. You'll always be blessed. You'll always be good. I wanted to tell the story of how we actually met, because like a lot of people that like Clubhouse. So we met on Clubhouse, like literally, but first Blacks and Nonprofits, and then Clubhouse. So there's a Facebook group. If you're not in it, you're an African American who's in the nonprofit realm. You need to be in the Blacks and Nonprofits Facebook group. Get in there. They do amazing things. But the second thing was Clubhouse, right?
Yep.
I got into Clubhouse, I want to say like the end of November, early December. No, I got in like the day before my birthday. So I got in December 16th. That's what it was. I got in and because like I was added, and like I was like, there's no place to talk about mentorship. Like there's a lot of different rooms, a lot of different clubs, but there was nothing specifically designed towards mentorship. So I started hosting Sunday night discussion that I just called "What About the Kids?" And all I wanted to do was bring people in who worked in the sector, sort of unify us, so we can have a space where we can talk about the work and how we can expand it. And the first night you joined and started talking, and I was like, this chick is dope. Like, I love her. I love her energy. I love her spirit. And if you've never been in a Clubhouse room, all you can hear is people's voices. You can't see them. You can't type to them. But I remember immediately after you talk, I was like, yo, stay in contact. Like, so you became the co-host, and we ran that room for like a month, I want to say. And
then
almost,
I think it might have been 2 months. Yeah.
2 months. Yeah. It was like, because we got to like week 9 or 10 or something like that. Yeah. I would take notes, and like, it was a really good room. I just got off Clubhouse because it got to be too time consuming for me. So I had to find space. One, are you still on Clubhouse?
I am still on Clubhouse. I'm not in the mix as much, but I am still on Clubhouse. So I got on Clubhouse in November, late October, November, something like that. And I spent a lot of time there learning and engaging with people in the business space. And so then I was like, I got to go apply all the stuff that I learned. And so I kind of scaled back on listening, but I pop in every now and then and still listen to rooms. And I host them very sparingly, but I'm still on there.
Right. All right. So how can, one, I want to make sure people know how they can get in touch with you. How can they find you? How can they follow you? How can they get, if they want to buy Dear Black Girl or any of your other books? You didn't talk about any of your other books.
I know. I feel like, not to say they're not relevant, right? But they're also not available. But there is information about my other reads on my page, so TabithaDJames.com, which I'll share in the comments here. But I wrote 2 motivational memoirs back in 17 and 18. And not to say that they are not great productions, because they came from me, so they're amazing. But they are not something that are at the forefront of my brand anymore. And so I just don't talk about them as much, but they are what helped to catapult my author and speaking career. I could be completely transparent. I had a speaking mentor who was like, you need to write books to differentiate yourself in the speaker space, because I got into the speaker space when I was like 21 or 22. And so trying to like, what is my secret sauce and how do I convince these people that I am an expert at something at such
Yeah.
a young age because of the stigma that comes along with age, right?
Yeah.
There's such a big stigma that because of your age you don't know anything, but I'm not gonna go down that road.
Right.
Needless to say, I was on a motivational speaking tour, and I talked a lot about, my backstory and coming from a rural area, having an ill parent, different things like that. So I then created the books to help propel that part of my career forward.
Okay.
The strategy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I didn't get into the speaking space until I was like 35. 35. So like dude, like you're light years ahead. Like you're light
Yeah.
years. I love it. But I also wouldn't think but I also understand like people write the book so that you can, so one, you have something to sell when you do speak. And then two, it's like, oh, I'm a published author. So
Yes.
yes. So
And you have that you just have that collateral, and it's it's something you can add, you can get bulk orders. It just was such a good space to get into, and it was a release, right? It was a way to talk to them about untold things. I always, though it was for the purpose of speaking, I will say that read just helped to open eyes, if you will, because I've been in these social media streets since I was like 10. And so there's a lot of there's a lot of perceptions that people can make based on what they see, right? So, you see this amazing presence on social media, you see the 4.0s, you see the, all the awards and accolades. And so that, in a sense, was a burden to me, because I was like, but the struggle. It was
Right. I love that. That's a key piece. So where can they find you?
So I dropped my links all in the comments. And so if you're watching this in real time, or if you come back and watch it later, you can grab those. You can find me, connections to me at All Things Me. If you Tabitha D. James, I'm Tabitha D. James on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the places. You can go to my site, www.tabithadjames.com, to learn a little bit more about the Tabitha backstory, some ways that you can work with me in this season. The Dear Black Girl shop is locked and loaded with the book, coloring book, and all things Dear Black Girl and Dear Black Girl Magic. And she is me. The reason that kind of brought us here today, I say the best for last. That is my heart work and heart's work. I just shipped off our program boxes for this month today. She is me. You can find us on Facebook or Instagram at She Is Me 17. We also have a site. You can find the link there. So all the spaces, right? If you forget all of that, just Google Tabitha D. James, and I promise you'll find it. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Man, listen, I appreciate you coming on. I'm like I told you, I'm a fan. I love what you represent. I love who you are, and I love genuine people. I love people who are about their business. I love genuine people who are really. And you've led with your heart from our first interaction, and that's something I respect in people. That's something I definitely respect, and something I want to uplift. And I think that's something we have to do, especially as Black people. In this time, in this era where we're talking about Black Lives Matter and things of that nature, we got to make sure that we're using these opportunities that we have, whatever platforms we have, to uplift and to motivate one another, and to shine light on one another. I love you, and I appreciate you, and I support you. And when you're in Charleston, we gotta grab lunch or something.
Yes, please. I will definitely let you know my next route to Charleston, so we can grab food, because y'all have all the good food there. All the good.
Yeah, we do all right. Number one rated city in the nation. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how.
Y'all got some good restaurants. That's how.
People really like it here. I never understood it, but anyway, I get it now as an adult when I left, but like now, anyway. But thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming on, Tabitha. I really appreciate you. Thank you, everybody who's watched today. This is Real Talk with Rajon, Local Celebrity Spotlight. Today, I'm actually doing a double header. So my second episode of the day is going to be at 7 p.m. At 7 p.m., I'm interviewing Dr. Arlisha Simmons, who is an author of the book. I don't want to mess with the name of the book. She's an author of a book. That's what I know. But as always, like Tabitha said, I don't pre-send questions, and I don't research my guests before I have them on, because I really want to get to know who they are. So if you are somebody who wants to come on, I'm not going to say that because I'm be announcing something later on, but that's another thing for another day. I'm not announcing it now. So, but thank you for watching. Please rate the show, watch the show. It will be on anywhere you can find podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, anywhere you can find audio podcasts. Go to subscribe to the channel, www.realtalkwithrajan.com. All those things. Always remember that God is everything, and without him, we are nothing. So never forget where your help comes from. And if a man doesn't stand for something, he's bound to fall for anything. Now, that is Real Talk, and I will see y'all at 7 p.m. Peace.